without further ado, we are very lucky today to have a reading of a book that we love. We're very, we feel very lucky to have Michelle Hackney here, who wrote Mama's Leche, which was illustrated by Mia. Michelle, would you get started for us?
Oh, thank you. I want to thank Melissa and the NMSU Art Museum for welcoming Mama's Leche today. This is really exciting. And I always have to give thanks to our publishing company, Home Press, and our publicist, Elise April, for believing in our vision and working really hard for us. So thank you, everybody. Cosmically speaking, today is a big deal. Today's summer solstice, and there's a new moon and a solar eclipse happening. And so I really think it's a time of awakening and new beginnings. So I think it's really wonderful that we're all here together, and I'm happy to ride the wave with everybody today. I just want to sit back and see, oh, where'd the little girl go? It's always such a joy to read to children. So I was really inspired when I saw her face. But bright blessings and welcome. My name is Michelle Hackney. I'm a child wellness activist, and I'm the author of the Mama's Leche bilingual children's book series. I created the series with my cousin Mia, who's down there. She illustrates the books. She's a very genuine illustrator. She's an amazing artist, and she illustrates our books in such a wonderful way. And so I want to give thanks to her too. All of the books in the series are told from the child's perspective, and I did this to give children a voice in a world that often dismisses children for their lack of experience or whatever reason. I feel that when children are heard, they're respected, and when they're respected, their needs are met. And so ultimately my goal is to ensure that all children around the world are happy and well. And the Mama's Leche book series touches on topics that all families everywhere can relate to. So our books depict diversity to reflect that, definitely. We want to give our books, what do I want to say here? I guess from the heart, we want our books to close the gap between women of color and our Caucasian sisters when it comes to appropriate prenatal and postpartum care. We want to make sure we're doing our part to ensure that children are happy and well, and that women all over the world, no matter their skin color, their creed, their sexuality, or their age, have the proper care before, during, and after birth. So the federal organizations, if you're familiar with WIC and Head Start, sorry, I've got allergies today, so I'll pick my nose during Zoom. WIC and Head Start picked up Mama's Leche, the book I'm going to read today, and they're using it as educational material with their clients all over the nation. And mamas and child caregivers all over the world have embraced it as well, and they've helped us create a really beautiful community online on Instagram and on Facebook. So everyone joining us today, if you feel inclined to take a peek on Instagram or Facebook, look up Mama's Leche or our second book, it's called Brave and Strong, A Preemies Journey. And if you'd like to have your very own copy of Mama's Leche after you hear the reading, then visit our social media pages. There's a way to purchase there, or you can go to Barnes & Noble. You can go in person or online, and they carry our book all the time. So I just want to say thank you for making history with us today as we have our first virtual reading and breastfeeding sit-in for any of the moms that will be nursing their babies today. So without further ado, mamas, if you're breastfeeding, latch on to those chi-chis and let's begin. Is everybody ready for a reading? This is Mama's Leche. And it's dedicated to breastfeeding moms and babies all over the world. I like to lie in Mama's lap. Me gusta acostarme en el regazo de mamá. I'm a lazy kitty cat. Soy un gatito perezoso. I'm sleepy, happy, safe, and fat. Tengo sueño, soy feliz, Estoy seguro y soy gordito. Mama pats my bum. Mama me acaricia las asentaderas. She rubs my hair. Me frota el pelo. And then we share. Y entonces compartimos. Mama's leche, la leche de mamá. And then we stare. Y entonces miramos. Mama's eyes, los ojos de mamá. Hello, mama. Hola, mamá. I close my eyes. Cierro los ojos. Tum, tum, tum goes mama's heart. Boom, 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 dice el corazón de mamá. Mine says pat, pat, pat. Y el mío dice pat, pat, pat. Purr like a cat. Ronroneo como un gato. A special treat, warm and sweet. Una sorpresa especial, caliente y dulce. Mama's leche. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody being here. I want to pass the mic over to Suzanne Staley and the New Mexico Breastfeeding Task Force. And I have to say, I stan Suzanne so hard. I'm such a big fan. She's such a gem in our community here in San Diego. She's working really hard to turn the maternal health crisis around, and she's really outspoken about normalizing breastfeeding. She's been a volunteer with the New Mexico Breastfeeding Task Force and has been working as a breastfeeding peer counselor since 2013. So my beautiful Zoom family, without further ado, Suzanne Staley.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Mia. Thank you for your beautiful book, Mama's Leche. Thank you, Marissa Sage with the NMSU University Art Museum. This is fantastic. So I volunteer with the New Mexico Breastfeeding Task Force, and we have 14 chapters throughout the state. I volunteer with our local Las Cruces chapter, and I want to share with you more about that, but I first would like to introduce our Deputy Director, Monica Esparza, so she can give you kind of an overall view of what the task force is working on and some of the projects and successes that have been happening throughout the state. And then she'll hand it back over to me and I'll fill you in on some of the local things that we're working on. Monica Esparza is a longtime friend of mine. I first met her about 6 years ago up in Albuquerque at the annual Breastfeeding Task Force conference. And she was also a breastfeeding peer counselor, and her and I worked on a really great project called the Workplace Liaison, Breastfeeding in the Workplace Liaison Project. And she'll fill you in a little bit more about that. But her and I have been working in our respective cities together for many years, and I'm really, really happy to introduce her now as our state's deputy director. And I'll hand it over to you now, Monica.
Hola a todos. Can you hear me? Good. Thank you so much, first of all, for allowing me to be in this space. I want to welcome everyone who's here and thank you for your time. I am the Deputy Director of the New Mexico Breastfeeding Task Force, which is a statewide coalition, and we are actually one of the oldest breastfeeding coalitions in the nation. Our goal and our mission is to normalize or help support communities to create environments where breastfeeding is the cultural norm. And we do that through very many venues and projects, including our Baby Friendly Project, which is to support hospitals to become baby friendly. And if you do not know what baby friendly is, look it up, or I can tell you a very brief snap about it. It is that we support hospitals to follow 10 steps and that are supportive of evidence-based information and are supportive of acknowledging and providing all the evidence base that is so that parents can make the best decision for themselves. And that includes breastfeeding. We are so excited to have most of our hospitals are either the pathway to become baby friendly or already are baby friendly and are even going to redesignation for baby friendly, which is a big benefit for all our families. It's a great start to life for many of our newborns. We also work, as Suzanne talked about, the workplace project. Suzanne and I piloted together this project where it was just in Albuquerque and in Las Cruces. And now this project has gone statewide. And what we do is we inform and create awareness about the New Mexico law, 2 of them. The first one is a pumping in the workplace, which establishes that all employers have to provide employees with flexible break times and a clean and private place for mothers to pump at. That is not a bathroom. And then we also create awareness and inform families about their rights to breastfeed in public, which states that any mother can breastfeed anywhere she is legally allowed to be. So for those mamas out there breastfeeding, know that that is your right, and we are here to support you. We do this through advocacy. We do this through creating awareness, through outreach, and we do this through providing support to employers. Most employers want to support their families and their employees, they just don't know how. So we reach out to those employers and we provide technical assistance. We brainstorm locations that they can use for moms to pump and how to accommodate and create those flexible break times. We also support advocacy efforts for our mamas that are having difficulties with having a friendly workplace environment. So if any lactating parent or breastfeeding parent that is having difficulties in the workplace, know that you can reach out to us and we will be happy to help you and support you through your process. And any business that you know that is already supporting, we also like to recognize them. So reach out to us and let us know of those places because we want to acknowledge them and thank them for supporting families. There's a couple of other things that we are doing in the task force, which is currently with our COVID-19 pandemic. We are ensuring that our providers have the latest information and knowledge and resources about breastfeeding and COVID-19 and the latest up-to-date evidence-based information. If you navigate to our website, you can find our resource page, which we update every 2 weeks on the latest findings about breastfeeding and COVID-19. So if you have a family, a parent, or a provider that you'd like to share this information to, please do so. You can download it on our website. We advocate for supportive policies for our families. That is continue to support policies in the workplace, but also for accommodations to pregnancy leave and maternity leave. And so we work with our partners in our communities to ensure that families have the best support that they have so that they can have the best start to life. And finally, we do outreach. And in this day and age, our outreach looks very different. We do events such as this. We are also getting ready to celebrate World Breastfeeding Week. So Suzanne can tell you guys a little bit more about that. But since everything is going to be virtual, just keep an eye out for our social media pages and our website to see what's happening in our neighborhood and in our neighborhoods that you can join us virtually. And we support our chapters, our 14 active chapters all throughout the state. We know that all our communities are different. Their needs are different. And so we acknowledge that the people that live in the community know what their community needs, and we just support them and support the chapter into the different projects that they do and create, and just be there so that they are able to navigate the systems and the barriers that exist so that we can continue to support our breastfeeding families. So with that said, Suzanne is going to talk to you a little bit more about what the Las Cruces chapter is doing. But first of all, I just want to acknowledge Suzanne, because she is a leader, she's an advocate, she's an amazing person that I have an honor to know. And she's been supporting breastfeeding families and lactating parents in our Las Cruces area for so long. And I know that we all that know her know that we are lucky to have her in our lives. Suzanne, back to you.
Thank you so much. That was so nice of you to say. I love it. I love all the love. I wanted to see if I could share. Let's see if I can share screen real quick. This is, can y'all see that?
Yes.
The 10 steps to successful breastfeeding. The baby-friendly initiative, baby-friendly hospital initiative that Monica mentioned, these are the 10 steps. And the reason I pulled it up is because number 10 is where our chapter really has a lot of strengths. So step 10 is foster the establishment of breastfeeding support groups and refer mothers to them on discharge from the hospital or birth center. So basically, you know, they don't want to discharge a mom and just put her out there without any support from the community, because what happens is after they're discharged, if they've just stayed in the hospital a day or two, the breasts change and our milk supply increases substantially right around day 3, depending on some factors, but usually around day 3. And that is when mothers really need some support most of the time, especially first-time parents. And having a community that supports them is super, super important in order for them to reach their breastfeeding goals. And so we want to see moms breastfeed at least until 6 months, but hopefully up to a year and hopefully more, because the breast milk is always good for children well into toddlerhood. It has many, many benefits. So our chapter, I'm going to take this off of share screen. Is it gone now? Okay. So our chapter, what I would have said pre-coronavirus is I would give you all information on the support groups and the new parent groups that we have here in our community. However, those are all on hold right now in the traditional sense. They're all on hold. But mamas are still having babies and mamas are still breastfeeding. So we really still need to have the support there where it's needed. I wanted to share some information, what I know right now that's going on in terms of support, share that with anybody that needs it, and ask that you also maybe jot it down and be able to share it with any mothers or families in your life that are breastfeeding, plan to breastfeed. So live support groups are on hold, but Kimberly Smetzer is an IBCLC, which stands for International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. She works at Mountain View Regional Medical Center, and she's a very, very active in our chapter and very active statewide in terms of helping hospitals become baby friendly and being a supportive provider to our families. She's doing private consults and she's teaching virtual breastfeeding classes. The second Tuesday of each month, she does a breastfeeding class from 6 to 9 p.m. So the second Tuesday of each month, 6 to 9 p.m. And then she's also teaching a childbirth class the third Saturday of each month, 9 to 2. That's where she is right now. Otherwise, she'd be on with us right now. So breastfeeding class, second Tuesday of each month, 6 to 9 p.m. And childbirth class, third Saturday of each month, 9 to 2. In order to register, I'm going to give you a phone number, I'm going to give you an email. Her phone number, and she wants me to share this phone number. So please feel free to use this phone number for breastfeeding support, private consultations, any information on how to get support. Kimberly Smetzer. She's area code 321-298-3153. 321-298-3153. So she was sorry she couldn't join us today, but she's one of these women that anyone that calls her, she's just all ears. She will give you all the time and energy that she has, and she's a really great piece of support in the whole puzzle of what postpartum looks, the whole postpartum picture. Having breastfeeding support a little bit goes so far, and I just can't stress that enough. So anyone that you know that is pregnant or is breastfeeding, and anyone that has, we all know how important that support is. So I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to mention that. And then I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what our chapter's been doing. Initially, this was scheduled, the weekend right before, the weekend that everything started to lock down in our state. So unfortunately, we couldn't do this face-to-face, but we had just come off of what we called our Breastfeeding Art Show. And some of us here were part of that. Mia, the illustrator for the book, submitted a couple pieces of art, and Mamas Leche were involved in our art show, and it was a really beautiful event filled with beautiful, beautiful art and beautiful people and beautiful conversations and a beautiful representation of what normalizing breastfeeding looks like in a community like ours. We were going to talk a little bit about that, but we didn't get the chance to, but we are working on something that maybe we will be able to continue talking about that and looking at that in a virtual format at a later date. That was a big project that our chapter took on, and the impact it made, we believe, was pretty high. Lots of people came out for that. Lots of people participated with that. And the more, a little bit goes a long way. And the more you can kind of talk about that, and you can kind of exponentially see the impact. And so that was one project. Another project we've worked on was supporting fathers and men in our lives. Lots of times in conversation, they get left out of the conversation, and that was something we heard and something that the task force statewide addresses and continues to address. We worked alongside the Conscious Fathering program in Las Cruces, and we showed up where they needed us to talk to dads and give dads information, and also get information from dads so that we could understand how to support the entire family unit, whatever that looks like, just to be able to have support for partners and support for families, and not leave anyone out. Although dads can't breastfeed, dads can do so much, and we talked, our initiative kind of brought that up to the forefront of our conversations. We've done providers toolkits where we did little big kind of boxes filled with books and information and literature that we dropped off at different physicians' offices in the city, and based on what they were telling us they needed. Because a lot of the time, local offices, family practitioners, pediatricians, they might not have the most up-to-date information, and they might not know how to deal with really specific breastfeeding issues. And there's only so many lactation professionals in our city. And so we wanted to make sure they had the tools that they needed to address some of those issues, and then also be able to refer things out to lactation consultants when they felt that they needed to do that. So just a little sampling of the things that we've done. Upcoming, every August, it's what we call World Breastfeeding Month. And there's World Breastfeeding Week, which is the first full week of August. But really the whole month of August in our world, in this lactivist community is about breastfeeding. And it's our chance to really like go out there, talk about it, hashtag, go out and do things, and put it in the forefront of people's minds. And so our chapter for the last several years have done a big latch-on. And for anyone that isn't familiar with the big latch-on, it's when you gather a large group of people together, as big as you can get, and you ask everyone to latch on their babies at a certain time. And it's a worldwide event. So the idea is you have thousands and thousands of people breastfeeding and latching on at the same time, right? So it's really fun. Really excited to be part of that. And this year there's going to be a virtual big latch on. So look for that. Follow us on Facebook. We have our statewide Facebook and Instagram. We also have our local chapter's Facebook page. If any of you are interested in just kind of staying connected, seeing how you can be involved. We're always looking for new people, new mamas, and new babies. Babies and children are always welcome at our events. In fact, it's encouraging and really helpful to have babies and children at our events, because it reminds us of what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. So I wanted to encourage mothers of little ones that you can still be involved even with little ones, bring them along, the more the merrier. We're going to continue doing virtual meetings, but hopefully one day we can all venture out and start doing community things again. And I look forward to that day, but until then, we're going to stick to doing virtual. Big Latch-On's going to be virtual. World Breastfeeding Week, whatever that's going to look like, you can help us figure out what that's going to look like for our community, but it will all be done virtually until we get all this stuff figured out. So that is, I've said everything that I need to say about that, and I'm going to leave it there, and hopefully we have a couple questions or little mini conversations that we can now have for the remainder of our time.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. That was really great. And also thank you, Monica. It's really inspiring what you two and of course your full groups are doing. It's amazing. I think one of the things that I might like to ask a question first is, if you're thinking about becoming a mom, or do you have any kind of suggestions or groups if you're actually not a mother but you're thinking about becoming a mother, and this is something you want to educate yourself on way ahead of time, and or any suggestions for like pre-motherhood, getting ready for these ideas? Neither one of you guys can tackle that question.
I think it's helpful to hang out with other moms, that have just had a baby. And for me, going back into the working world was hugely challenging, and my life kind of went, and things really changed. I didn't necessarily want it to do that, but it did, and it brought some uncomfortable feelings, but it was like that growth, you know, that we talk about, where growth can be painful. It was that. It was like, okay, I thought it was going to be like this, but it's actually like this, but it's wonderful and beautiful in its own way. And so I think talking to women in our community, well, people in the community, about what did that look like? What did it do to your career or your life, or, you know, whatever you had going on at the time. And also what did you expect, and what really did it look like? I think we talk so much of how they paint the picture, you know, like in the Pampers commercials and things. It's like, oh, it looks so like this and so like that, and so pretty and perfect, but I mean, it's not, right? Like, it's really hard, and it can be really, really painful and difficult, and also really, at the same time, really beautiful and life-changing. So it's kind of all of that all at once. And I think having just conversations with people and seeing a woman breastfeed, I mean, for people that, you know, we're a very modest kind of America at times, you know, like, oh, cover up and babies, you know, bring a bottle out, and it's one of the things we all work on, is being okay to breastfeed in public. It's completely legal, and it's the way that we're supposed to feed our babies. And so to put additional pressure on a mom to pump her milk and put it in a bottle just to be able to go out and sit in a park, it's just a little bit too much. But watching a woman breastfeed, talking about breastfeeding, you know, for me, I didn't see many people breastfeed in my life. And just being able to just openly watch someone breastfeed and watch what that looks like, it can be really eye-opening, and I think really comforting too. Like, wow, it's so easy. Look how easy that is. Look at how sometimes it doesn't even look like a mother's breastfeeding. I mean, she's just sitting there with her baby, and you really look close and you're like, oh, that baby's suckling. She's actually nursing, you know? I think it's helpful to surround yourself around people that can kind of invite you into that life.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Can I say something? I hope I'm not intruding, but what I wanted to say is, like, for example, Mia and I both breastfed our children. We did not come from a breastfeeding family. Our mothers didn't breastfeed us. Our grandmother didn't breastfeed. So we didn't have elders teaching us the way. We had to seek out our own support. When I go to the New Mexico Breastfeeding Task Force meetings, there's children of all ages there, and there's moms nursing at the meetings. And so, Marissa, I would say, and I think Suzanne is also saying, it's important for moms to see other breastfeeding moms, and at these meetings, you will see that. And so if you're thinking about becoming a mom and you need a community and you don't come from a breastfeeding family, I would suggest coming to the task force meetings. If you're not in New Mexico, I would suggest finding a lactation support group you can go to so that you can be around moms, like Suzanne said, because we don't all come from a breastfeeding family.
I think it also creates those realistic expectations. And like Suzanne says, that, you know, we've seen it painted all in some ways in a negative way, in some ways in a very, like, everything's perfect type of way. But really, when you're around families and moms and parents that breastfeed, then you see the reality of breastfeeding. And just like everything else, it's not what, it doesn't look like it's like what it's painted. It's not what it's described to be. It's completely different, but it's completely normal. And then you just create your village of people that you can call on for support.
Thank you. Does anyone else who's on the Zoom have any questions? Even if you are, if you have your video off, you can put your question in a chat, or you can unmute yourself or ask to unmute in the chat, and we'll unmute you so that you can ask your question if you have one. Anybody?
I have a question for the author, for Michelle. Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about what feelings or thoughts were coming to you as you were creating the Mama's Leche book?
Oh, for sure. I have 3 children. I have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. They were born in San Diego, and I moved to New Mexico 7 years ago. I missed having a baby, so I ended up having a 3rd child, and there's a big gap between. He's 6 now. But when I moved back, my cousin Mia was pregnant also, so she's got a 6-year-old as well. And she lives just an hour from me in El Paso. So I was a journalist in San Diego for 13 years, writing for newspapers and magazines. And although I was making a decent living, it wasn't always my passion. I wasn't always writing about things I love. And when I was pregnant with my last child and I was close to Mia, who's an amazing artist, we started looking at children's books about breastfeeding for our babies that were coming into the world. And there were some really cool ones. I mean, we've seen a lot of them, and they've got little animals nursing, and if they have humans in them, the body wasn't shown. So what I was thinking is that we would have to create a book for our boys that showed breastfeeding in a normal way and in a natural way. So I started to write the manuscript, and I showed it to Mia without any censorship. I just handed it to her and asked her to go for it. And it's like she really felt my vibe, and she displayed my words in such a way. And so I think that we worked together really well, but we were thinking that we wanted a book, firstly, for our boys that showed breastfeeding in a natural way. And we couldn't find it, so we had to create it. And that's how Mama's Leche came about. Is that right, Mia?
That's such a beautiful process. Thank you for sharing.
Process here too, because we've never created a book, you know, and we cut and paste Mia's images and my words, and then we like made this punk rock book out of cardboard and paper stock, or whatever you call it, cardstock, and we started sending it out. And these publishing companies would get back to it and be like, yeah, you know, that's a cool concept, but it's really unorganized, it's not professional. Oh, I don't know what to do with it. Maybe you want to hit someone else up. Everybody.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I feel like we got turned down at least 10 times. Every time Michelle would open a letter, she'd call me and she goes,
This is it. No.
Maybe we need to do this. Okay, let's consolidate to a PDF. Let's add color. Let's try different suggestions that they made. And finally we landed a spot with Kalindi Home Press, and it's been an adventure for sure. I wanted to add to what Monica had said. I think it's really important that we advocate for each other and that you find your village. And if you see somebody out there breastfeeding, or, you know, just give them like a high five, or, you know, make them feel welcomed and comfortable, because Michelle's correct. I had moments in my own family where even like family members would tell me, you need to cover up, people's husbands are here. And I'm a little strong-willed, and I would fight back and say, well, their husbands should know what a body, you know, a woman's body looks like, and they should turn around and be respectful if they don't want to see it. And it caused a lot of problems, but I made it to where I had to stand my ground, and I always had Michelle's support with it. So when we were together, this whole book, and even now, I'm so stunned at how many people still cannot understand how normal this is and nurturing. And I really am so thankful to be a part of this, because I've met such wonderful people like Marisa and Suzanne. You all are doing wonderful things out there, and I'm so thrilled to be a part of your tribe.
Yay.
I just, one last thing. I just want to show the image in the book again that Mia drew. That's a bit of a controversy. We've been traveling the nation with this book now for almost 3 years. And although it's been embraced by many people, and like I said, WIC and Head Start, there's some people, women included, who are not comfortable with the idea of a children's book having boobs exposed. We got invited to do a big event in Los Angeles a year or so ago. And Good Day LA wanted to interview us. We got kicked off because somebody was like more interesting or whatever. That's the way it goes in LA. But they didn't want to talk about the process of the book. They didn't want to talk about normalizing breastfeeding. They wanted to talk about the controversy of public breastfeeding. So we're still having to normalize breastfeeding. So task forces are important. But this image, it has made our book a bit of a controversy.
Wow.
Because some people don't think that children should see exposed breasts, and we do, because that's how we normalize things. That's how we push things forward, right? That's why we're all here today.
I have one more question actually for Mia. You know, since it sounds like this is the first time that you've done anything like this, how did you as an artist translate what you do as an artist in an illustrator into a more book-like format? It sounds like it was a trial and error process. And what was that like, especially taking kind of critique in a different way?
So when I received Michelle's manuscript, I felt like it was so whimsical and lighthearted that Michelle and I are the type of people that are so accepting of all beings and creatures, big and small, or black or white, or whatever your ethnicity is. And we wanted to show that in a playful way. And so I literally started off with Michelle. I had taken a picture of her, and of course she wasn't nude or anything like that, but I totally you know, made some adjustments so that it would be a bare breast. And I was kind of doubting myself even, and when I handed to her, I said, is this too much boob? Because I want the boob. And she was like, oh no, we need so it's all been the fact that she's given me permission to be myself and be playful and whimsical with this book. I mean, it's so endearing. It's so sweet. There's nothing bad about it. That I think that once people give it a try, they can connect and relate and empathize with the different positions the baby is being held or breastfed. And when, on a side note, when we had to create our new book that is just been published, Brave and Strong, A Preemie's Journey, she did the same thing and handed it over. And of course, it went a completely different direction. So I do feel like we make a great team, and the fact that she supports my ideas. And, you know, everybody has their opinions on the female body. And I want to make sure that I give it justice and show diversity and all shapes and sizes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I just want to say, I want to thank you guys for normalizing breastfeeding and normalizing breasts, right? There's a point in our lives where we're, as children, the human body is normal. And then we hit a certain age where we start seeing it as not a natural thing. Like seeing a breast is not natural unless it's showcasing some kind of Victoria's Secret brassiere or something like that. So I just want to thank you for doing that, for normalizing it. I tend to go to to book readings for my daughter's school, and every time I go to a book reading, I read a breastfeeding book. it's amazing to see the children are not offended. The children are fine with it. It's like, okay, you know, that's what it is. It's the parents that sometimes have a problem with it. And it's good to just start seeing our kids and our young people realizing that breasts and seeing a baby on a breast is something normal. So thank you so much for that work that you're doing.
Thank you.
I'd also love to ask you, Suzanne, you gave some really great information for workshops and for people to contact. If you could send that to us, and we'll put that onto the website so that anyone who is here today or anyone who wasn't able to make it could go to those resources, because I think those are invaluable resources that you have at your fingertips and within your brain, that we would really like to share that as well.
I will. I'll put it all together in an email to you, Marissa.
Okay, great. Well, I just wanted to thank all of you beautiful, spectacular, genius women for all that you do and all that you are and all that you shared with us today. I just want to remind anyone who's listening that we're going to be doing these every few weeks. We will update the website, uam.nmsu.edu. Like, for instance, we'll put these resources up for today's. We'll put up this recording so that people can also access it and see what we did today. And then we also have in tandem programming still going on with our Alone Together. Actually, Courtney, who's on this call, is going to, she curated with Sylvia Morenas, our art conservator, the Retablo portion of Labor, Motherhood, and Art in 2020 that looks at what many traditions and religions believe is one of the original mothers, Virgin Mary. And she did a beautiful exhibition timelined looking at the kind of from Immaculate Conception when Mary becomes pregnant with Christ to post Christ's death. And she did a gorgeous job with Sylvia. So they're going to actually have a curatorial talk next Saturday. And then keep looking at the website to see other Mama Create Ups. Like I said in the beginning of this, we have a Create Up on carving out time for your passions and FMLA. And then we'll end this series with our doula, midwife, and OBGYN with birthing options in New Mexico, and birthing options in New Mexico in relationship to what's going on right now with COVID. So we're really excited about that one. That will be in mid to late August. August 8th, is that right, Courtney? Look online. I don't want to give anyone the wrong date. So thank you so much for everyone who came in and out of the Zoom today. We appreciate everyone being here. Please email us if you have any questions. We can, and please, yes, thank you, Mia. For anyone who was able to pick up their kits, we're glad you picked up your kits. Like I said, for our next one on July 11th, we'll also have Mia's kits available if you weren't able to pick it up this time. And we'll do it on Saturday morning this time at 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the University Art Museum to pick up your kits. And we've got 25 kits available. So thank you so much. If everyone could just give everyone a little silent round of applause. And thank you. Lovely seeing everyone.